Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I hope everybody's doing well. I have another flipped video, and today's motif is holiday Christmas cards, but specifically centered around the snow theme. And so we did a little bit of shopping when Sizzix had their big sort of super sale, and I picked up some goodies here. And in particular, these first two are the ones that I had been eyeing for actually quite a while, but so when they went on sale, I was really excited to finally get them. The first is this is the flip and fold, and there's the product number if you're interested, and it's a Caitlin Lazardi die set. And I actually have a couple other flip and folds. I have the Christmas tree, and I have a floral one. And I really like them because you get so much dimension and detail. And included with this one, which is more of a gatefold, you have this nice arched panel so you can make a pretty cool shaped card as well. I didn't use that panel in any of my cards because I was mainly interested in building the snowflake, but I will definitely be making some cards with that because I think that's a really nice unique touch. The other die set that I was really interested in for a while is this one, which is the Snowflake Fold Along, and that's by Jen Long. And this one's pretty neat. I actually have the panda fold along too, which I think is pretty cute. And so this was another fun one to work with. I just really like the unique snowflake pattern. It's sort of more curvy than as opposed to this one, which is a little bit more geometric. So I thought having the two designs would be really fun to play with. The other thing that I've been really enjoying is die cutting my sentiments. So I got these two, which are really fun to work with, and then some other kind of cute stamp and die sets. So this one in particular I thought was kind of neat because it's got some really nice stamps that you can actually decorate your envelopes with. So there's this little stamp that has Season of Joy with a deer, and it does have a coordinating die set to go with that, and then some floral arrangements. And this frame here is actually separate from the Merry Christmas sentiment, so you could actually stamp the frame and then write the address in the center here. And then this one's pretty cute too, open December 25th. And most of those have coordinating dies to go with it, but also one of the things that attracted me to this is it's got these really nice corner embellishment dies, and I think those might be nice in mini albums as well to decorate your pages. So I'm gonna actually try that out, and I really love when a die set can be used in a lot of different ways, both for card making and mini album making, because this, I think it's supposed to sort of be a snowflake, but it doesn't really have to be. And then this one's just pretty, and it's not really holiday specific at all. So definitely like that. And this one's really cute. It's sort of a more casual, hand-drawn, I think it's called doodle, something doodle. And so it's very casual, very fun. So I thought that would be cute. And then this one, you can never have too many tag dies, I say. So this one's pretty cute. I think it's technically for journaling, but I thought these little stamps they are pretty little though. So just keep that in mind if you're interested in this. These are fairly small images, so they would be really good for creating your own sort of background stamped design. So those would be nice for that. But I really like the coordinating dies, and the die set does come with this big gift box, which has a separate die for the bow, and I did make use of that in my cards today. So without further ado, let me show you my cards. So first start off with my flat card, and I did experiment with a couple of different techniques on this card. So let me show you those panels because I think it'll make a little bit more sense how I put this one together. So I have a snowflake embossing folder, and it's just a regular one. It's not 3D or anything. And this is what it would look like plain. So this is the embossed side, so it's raised, the snowflakes. But if you ink half of your embossing folder, and in this case I inked the side that pushes into the cardstock, then and I inked it with Versamark, which is a clear ink, but when you ink that, stamp that onto colored cardstock, it just deepens and darkens the color of the paper. And so it gives a little bit of dimension and shadow that is gonna get pushed into the paper. And so it kind of makes it look a little bit more 3D without this being a 3D embossing folder. So you get a little bit more depth and interest that way. And then if you ink the reverse side, again, with Versamark, and then I put embossing powder over it, then the raised portion of the design has the ink, and then you can emboss over it. So I used a Wow glitter embossing powder, and so it's got a little bit of shine and shimmer. And because this is a rather open design, meaning there's rather large gaps between the snowflakes, it was hard to keep ink out of those areas. So I did have to sort of gently brush away the embossing powder, and it's very imperfect. There, you can see a lot of the embossing powder is still speckled between the snowflakes, but I think overall it's still a very nice look because it is kind of snowy, and it does glisten with the glitter. So I really like that effect. And then the last thing that I did experiment with was using this diffuser plate. And again, this is also put out by Sizzix, and they come in, I think when you get it, it does come in a 3-pack, so I do have it in a couple of different shapes. So I have a set of 3 hearts, and then in this particular set, it's the circle and then 2 ovals. So a smaller oval, maybe just for like a small sentiment, and then a larger oval that's more or less right in the center. And what's really great about these is that you use this instead of your top cutting plate, and when you run it through your die cutting and embossing machine, then it leaves the open area flat. And so that area doesn't get embossed. And what you end up with is a lot of pretty embossed design and dimension around this open area. And then you get a flat area that you can then stamp on and put your sentiment. So if you're making, a strictly 1-layer card, this is a really nice option because you can still stamp your sentiment, and you don't have to stamp that onto something separately and then adhere that on. So that's pretty much all 3 of those techniques were used on this card. So I debossed some Versamark ink into the snowflake pattern, and then I stamped using the Doodle Snow, I think it's Winter Wonderland die set, stamp and die set, to kind of add that ring of snowflakes. And then I stamped my sentiment in just white, and then this is a snowflake die cut out of my stash. So a lot of different techniques, but in the end you get a very flat, very easy to mail card that still has a lot of interest in it, and kind of has the look of layers, but really it's just one layer of cardstock. My next flat card is this one, and it'll probably make sense for me to show you this flat card along with this layered card, because they are essentially the reverse of each other. I have a die out of my stash that cuts out this really nice pattern here, and where these snowflakes were cut out of this panel, I applied them onto this panel. And the Let It Snow sentiment came from the new die cut sentiment pack that I just got. And so it's kind of nice. I love dies like these where you can use everything, the negative and the positive, and essentially get 2 cards out of 1. This is my next layered card. So this, again, I used the Let It Snow sentiment from that die set, and here I used the Fold Along snowflake. And that particular die set, it only cuts the snowflake in half portions, so you don't get the full snowflake that you cut out, you just get half. And so in the center there would have been a gap or a seam, and so that's why I placed the Let It Snow on some foam right over, and that's to hide that seam. And I just did some ink blending with some Distress Oxide inks, and in this set you also get little snowflakes, which I cut out of fun foam, and then I made stamps out of those, and that's what I used to create my background. So there are these 3 little snowflakes, which I thought were really cute, and so I just stamped them in a random pattern, different colors, same 3 colors that I used to color my larger snowflake. And then I spritzed the whole panel with a mica shimmer mist that I make myself. And so it's a little bit hard to see on the camera, but there's a little bit of a shimmer and shine to it if you tilt it in just the right light. And then I added some Nouveau drops over the top. So speaking of the fold along, this is how the fold along is actually meant to be constructed. So it is rather small for a card like on its own. So let me actually measure this. I think it's around 4 inches. So about 4¼ inches. And so it's definitely smaller than an A2, but it's really super cute, and maybe you could put this entire element onto an A2 card front. So you could attach it onto a card and have it fold out like that. But I thought it might be fun to make a shaped card, and just have this be a little card, and then you could write a little message on the back. So there's that. And so my next layered card, this one. So this actually uses the flip and fold, and with its gatefold, but not with the full arched panel that it also comes with. I die cut the letters in snow out of 3 different colors, and I stacked them and just staggered it. So you get that little extra dimension and interest, and then I use a snowflake out of my stash for the O. This was a rather large alphabet die set, so couldn't quite fit the whole word across there, and so I had to improvise with the snowflake, but I think that turned out well. And then this little gatefold is also an easel card, so you can stand this up and put it like that, and it'll stand up like that, and you can open, and it says peace and joy. So the words peace and joy do come in the die set with the flip and fold, but the ampersand comes from one of the holiday sentiment die sets that I got. So I really like this flip and fold because you get And this is the more simpler application of it. You get a lot of dimension with these popping up, and they're really fun. So definitely made quite a few cards using this. And my next card is this one. Again, I use Winter Wishes that came from the Sentiment die set, and the snowflakes came from actually leftovers from last year, I think, and these were also leftovers from last year's Christmas card making. These scenes were out of my stash, and I generally use them when I'm making shadow boxes, but I thought why not just put it on a regular flat card. And this is an easel card, so when you stand it up, you have this extra element to the scene. And so this was kind of fun to do. The easel stand here, this is propped up on foam, and then I just cut a soft curve for a snowbank. And so this is just one layer of cardstock that I scored and folded up, and then I attached my little fawn to that. And so it's kind of neat because then once you assemble it, you have this extra element to your scene. And I just used the same really kind of dark blue. This is a dark blue. It's not black. It's a very kind of midnight blue, which I did spritz with my shimmer spray, and so that does give it that kind of snowy look. But I used the same dark blue on the fawn to kind of bring that color down. So I really like how that turned out, and I like the little added scene element down here when you prop up the easel card. And there's room down here to kind of write your message, so or sign your card. But you could also, if you don't want to sort of disrupt the scene, you could also write the message in here too. And then that is visible when you open the card, but when you prop it up, then it's hidden. So that's another option. Okay, so that's my last layered card, and then my interactive cards. So I've got, of course, a snow globe. Can't have a snow-themed flip without a snow globe. And so the bottom of the globe, I just hand cut this because I don't have a die that cuts this shape for me. But I just looked at some images and tried my best to make it symmetrical. And I did use, it's hard to tell, but I used an embossing folder. I think it's from Fun Stamper's Journey, and it's sort of kind of like sun rays, but it's a dotted line pattern. So it's really subtle. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's just a little bit of extra interest and dimension. And Season's Greetings I got from the Sentiment die set that I showed earlier. And the shaker fill is just sort of this iridescent snow, and I think I got that from the Dollar Tree. So then you open it, and it's got this really nice snowy scene, and that's just pattern designer paper that I've had in my stash for years, and sort of just rediscovered. So the shaker window itself is see-through and just has the snow in it. So that's the only thing in the globe. And but when you have it closed, you can see the full scene. So thought that was kind of cute. Then my next interactive card is this flip and fold, and this one has all the layers. So I've got this dark teal on some colored cardstock, and then there's that layer, this lighter teal cardstock, and then a lighter glitter cardstock, also in a lighter teal. So 2 shades of glitter cardstock, 2 shades of colored cardstock. So a lot of color, a lot of dimension, and really fun. So even though the die set cuts these in halves, I was able to kind of assemble it together and make a full snowflake out of it. And so this is actually a spinner card. So the back is also just as dimensional, so I did everything twice so that the front and the back would be the same. And basically, the way I did this was just did some partial die cutting, because even though the patterned portion of the snowflake only cuts in a half, you do get this more solid die, and so that is the one that I cut and used as sort of my solid piece in order to kind of keep this whole and also sandwich the invisible thread that's attaching the snowflake or suspending the snowflake. So that's how I got sort of the solid portion. And so that's the die that I used there. And then I just layered the rest on top. And then again, I used the same snowflake embossing folder and a couple of snowflake die cuts, I think from this set as well, just from that really soft, light teal glitter cardstock. And the word joy came from, it didn't come from this die set, but it came from the other, I think it came from the fold along snowflake die set. So that's that one. And then my next, I have one more interactive card. This one is a little scene card. And I've got these fun little critters just hanging out in the snow. And I was going to leave this without a sentiment, but I did last minute decide to add the Let It Snow sentiment. I wanted something red because I had these two with their red hats, and I felt like I needed a third element that was red, just to, and specifically in this corner so that your eye is sort of drawn to those red spots, and then it crosses essentially the whole panel. I actually don't have a red ink, so I actually stamped this in a very light pink, and then I traced over it with a red alcohol marker. So if it looks imperfect, that's why. It's because it's stamped but then traced over by hand. And some of these little critters are popped up on foam. Like the bird is on some foam, so there's some dimension there. And this is actually a double slider card. And so when you expand both panels, you get the full scene, and it's actually a dogs versus cat snowball fight. So I just thought that was really funny and cute. These little guys were really fun to color, and I actually made two of these. I made a smaller version of this card, and then I just wanted more space to play with, so I made a full-size version, and that's what I came up with. Now, I did make a double slider for my husband's birthday earlier this year, and we wanted to kind of stand it up, but because I didn't build a stand for the card, we just had to kind of lean it against the wall. So this time around, I got a little smarter, and I actually built a stand into this card. So you can actually stand this up, and then you can pull it out and kind of put it on display if you want. And so it's more functional that way, and can be a real sort of display piece. One thing that I also improved upon from the last time I made a double slider is, actually there are two things. The first is that I did add an extra layer of just 100-pound cardstock, because I inked everything on 100-pound Nina cardstock because it just takes the ink a lot better than the standard cardstock that I use. But then I just used my regular accent opaque, I think it's 110-pound, to line the back of this. And that way the panels, they're just sturdier, and they don't feel so flimsy when you pull on them, and they hold up to all the layers of foam and all the layers of the stand also. So that's one improvement that makes a big difference, actually. It just makes it a lot easier to pull these out. And then the other thing that I improved upon is, first off, I notched both sides. In my previous one for my husband, I only notched the one side, even though you can pull on both, but it's a little bit easier if you do pull on both. You can just pull one and it will force the other one out. But it is a little bit easier if you pull from both ends. And I also, not only did I notch both sides, but I notched it all the way through so that the only thing that you can grab onto is the panel itself. And so that meant notching the front panel, the frontmost panel, notching the opposite panel, because each of these panels does go from edge to edge. And so the panel went on this side, when it's closed, does go all the way to this edge. And so I notched that, and then I also notched the front of the stand. So you can see there's the front of the stand, there's that layer, and this is a 120-pound card, so that it really can like hold up to everything in front here. And then this next layer is the opposite panel. This is the only thing that's solid, which is the thing that you pull, and then this is the front, and that's also notched. So you can see all the layers that are in front and behind the actual panel that you pull on is notched out, and that just makes it so much easier to grab hold of. In my previous iteration, when I made this a double-sider for my husband, I only notched the front and not the back, and so it's really hard to, like, especially I think for men, because they have larger hands and fingers generally, and so you know, that just makes it so much easier to actually, you know, play with this and move it in and out and grab hold of those panels. The last thing that I might do, which I haven't done yet, is maybe stamp little arrows so that you know that these actually can pull out. I hesitate to do that because, you know, it just looks so good with the full scene. That's kind of why I didn't want to put a sentiment also, is I just like it as a scene. And I like that I worked to intentionally try to make these, you know, snow mounds line up, and these lines also line up so that the panel looked very seamless. And so adding the little arrows kind of takes away from that. But I think to make it a little bit more usable for folks who may not be used to these types of cards, it's probably well worth doing. So that's my last interactive card. And then I do have a pop-up card. And the snow worked out so well the first time that I did it here as well, where I used the snowflake instead of the letter O. And I have these circle confetti pieces from Nuvo that came in one of their craft kits, and I thought it would make really fun but subtle snow effect. This panel is spritzed with my mica shimmer spray, but the little iridescent confetti pieces, confetti snow, just adds this little fun touch that, you know, you just keep wanting to tilt around because it catches the light in different ways and then is different colors. And then when you open it, you have a little snowman. So he's got quite a bit of dimension. He's holding a present. So you can see that the snowman is sort of on one layer, and then the present is on a layer even further out from him. So I got this idea from when I made the floating floor tree card, Christmas tree card, and I thought, oh, I think that would work on something like this too, where that way you can kind of turn any die cut into something that kind of flips up, and then you could layer up die cuts and add additional dimension. And because in the floating floor, basically it was kind of like this, and I cut slits into the floor and put these little stands through. So this is a very similar, not quite exactly the same, but pretty similar kind of mechanic. And I like that, if you kind of open and close, you can kind of make the snowman dance. Okay, so that's my pop-up card. And I did do a paper quilled card. So this was my snowflake from paper quilling. And the winter wishes came from the holiday die set, sentiment die set. And the paper quilling is really simple. It's not a lot of shapes. And the progression actually shows itself in the pattern too. So you've got your simple circle, and then if you pinch one end of that, you get the teardrop. Then if you pinch two ends of that, you get sort of the eye pattern, this light blue. And then from this, if you pinch the opposite round ends, then you get the diamond. So, not a lot of sort of complicated paper quilling, because I'm by no means an expert at it. But I think it still makes it have a lot of interesting shapes. And besides that, there's just this kind of swirly shape and then a smaller circle. So really easy to do, but it's still a pretty fun pattern. This is a larger card. This is a 5x7 because I wanted a 6-pointed star, and then by the time I was done, that was how big it was, so I needed to kind of upsize my card in order to have it fit. But it worked out really well. So I like how that turned out. And then if you remember, the little fold along snowflake, it is small, so I did make a custom envelope for it. So this fits perfectly in here. And I did add a little, the little reindeer stamp on there in a coordinating stamp color, and I even put the little strip of double-sided adhesive tape, so it's a peel and stick when I'm ready. I was going to stamp the border, but on second thought, when I looked at it, my handwriting is pretty big, and so I wasn't sure that I could fit the name and address. And in the event that I actually put this through the mail, I would just want to make sure I leave myself enough room for that. If it's going to be something that goes into a box along with other gifts, then I'll probably go ahead and stamp that along with the open on December 25th, because I think that would be pretty cute. And then because I made so many cards, I did have a lot of extra die cuts and discards, which I did turn into 2 cards. So I had some extras of the flip and fold snowflakes. I think because I ended up choosing a different colored paper ultimately for the cards that I used it on, or in some cases I think I didn't do the partial die cutting 100% correct. But it worked out to be usable on these. And then the circles were what dropped out of either the snow globe or the spinner card. I'm not sure exactly which, but so that's where those came from. And this embossed panel, I think actually came from my Christmas tree flip that I did, because this embossing folder, I actually have a few of them. It's actually a full A4 size embossing folder, so you can actually emboss a full sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock in one go. And it's really nice because then you can get 4 panels out of it. And even though I don't mass produce my cards, I like to make unique cards for everybody through the holidays because it's just more fun for me that way. But this year I'm making uh, card sets to give as gifts as well. But even then, I kind of like to give people a variety. But it's still nice to have, easy panels that you can then use. And I just emboss it in white cardstock, and I used the Cosmic Shimmer polish to just lightly go over it, and then that adds the little hint of color. And this is one of their I think it's one of their opal polishes, because it's sort of color shifting a little bit. It's a little bit iridescent, and this one takes on a different color if you actually run it over black cardstock. So yeah, really easy way to kind of use up your extras. And then this was a gift box from the tag die set, and I think that also came from my Christmas tree card making session. I went with a different color ultimately on my Christmas tree card, but this worked perfectly because I had a lot of this extra teal color. Teal, blue, those are kind of my favorite colors, so I used a lot of that. But I'm starting to really like throwing in a little bit of red, because I did make this card without the pop of red, and it looked nice. It was kind of like this, where it's very tone on tone, but just adding that little hint of red gives it just a little bit of extra oomph. So I like how that turned out ultimately. So there are all of my flipped cards. I'll just quickly pile them all up so that you can get another last look at them. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these cards, and I'll definitely be doing more holiday Christmas cards. I have a couple more themes that I want to hit on. Let's see, gnomes for sure. I want to do some scene cards, Christmas scenes and shadow box style cards, things like that. And a couple more that I've been tossing around in my head. So I will definitely for the next couple months probably be making Christmas cards, and we'll be happy to share those with you. So until my next video, happy crafting, stay safe, and have a fantastic day. Thanks. Bye.